I'm going to call to order the US Chess Executive Board, our monthly meeting via Zoom call for July 9th, 2024. First order of business will be to call the roll. This is Randy Bauer and I'm present. Kevin Pryor has not joined us yet. We're hoping that he will. Chuck Unruh,
Present.
Mike Hoffpower,
Present.
David Hayter,
Present.
John Fernandez,
Present.
Lashmana Viswanath,
Here.
Leela Dakin,
Here.
and Renee Bartlett.
Here.
And so we have a quorum. The first order of business is to ask if there are any new conflicts of interest to be disclosed by any of the executive board members. Hearing none, move on to the next item, which is the June 2024 financial report. Vice President of Finance, Unruh, do you have anything to report?
Oh, yes, sir. I am. Yes, Mr. President. I'd like to take a little time to review some items and bring the general membership up to date. We do not have all the June numbers in currently, but we run a small business, and in the last month, I've turned in my report for the annual delegates report and annual report. And in that report, I mentioned the business in general. And I say, well, the business has two items. We have the donations and the investments, and on the other side, we have operations. And everything works very smoothly, but we are a business, and a business has risks. And one of those risks, as I put in my annual report, is the risk of events. We noticed that as we went into the spring, that the expenses were larger than the revenues for this year by an unusual amount, $329,000. So even with that loss, we finished with, it's not a loss, it's just a difference in our program, but it's treated as a negative surplus. And that negative surplus left us still with 5.5 million worth of net worth, approximately. Well, sometimes we self-insure, and that's part of the risk. We don't know how many individuals will show up at our tournaments. We do know early on our expenses, and they're fixed fairly with the hotels, with how many tournament directors we'll have, how much staffing. So this becomes a game of probability on the income side versus fixed expense. And of recent, why did we finish with $327 negative on our events when normally it's a 1 to 2% on the fiscal year difference? We don't include payroll. Well, we're looking into all those details. But as most know, inflation has pushed many of our costs with the hotels, payrolls, so forth. But we'll have answers soon. And that's the part of the business model right now that we have the most risk in. Recently, I should go back a year ago, we pretty much approved undertaking a major tournament called the Pan Am Youth. And once again, we don't control the revenue. The revenue is a probability, and we are self-insured. Well, this year we got caught on the revenue side. It was a multi-million-dollar expenditure. The revenues didn't match. It's going to result at least in a net worth loss of 18%. It's a huge loss to the organization, but it's part of our business model. We'll use it to analyze what went wrong, what can we do better at our events, what expenses should we anticipate in the future, what revenues do we need to raise, and we've already taken proactive steps to mitigate this loss. Fortunately, we had a reserve fund. So the combination of the weaker ending to the fiscal year 2024, the beginning of the first quarter, and our worst part of the business cycle for memberships, and then on top of it, a tournament that actually lost us a significant part of our reserve fund. Now, all the details aren't in, and we will look at all those details, and we'll know more as we go to the delegates meeting. But I wanted to let you know that we are in that business. We take that risk. Yes, we look for insurance, but even the insurance policies that we reviewed would not cover shortfalls in normal participation by players. They might cover catastrophic, but they're very expensive and they're very, very vague on what they'll cover. And this is covered. So this is a lesson about being careful on the expense side when we're offered an opportunity that costs millions of dollars, because we don't control the income side. We our best guess. And this time we got caught. Thankfully, it's not fatal. All other parts of our organization are doing well. Our investments are doing well. Our payroll came in under budget. We do have cost controls in, but events has been very troublesome after the COVID pop, and now we're seeing a decline in participation. That's my report tonight. It's a very serious report, but at the same time, we have a path forward. And we have all these details in what has occurred that we can learn from those and move forward. That's my report tonight. I'm open to questions.
Well, let me thank you, Ms. Vice President Unruh. Let me make a couple of comments, then if anybody else has questions or comments. The first comment I would make is that I travel for my professional life a lot. I'm a lifetime Diamond member in Hilton's program and Diamond in Delta's. And you're absolutely right, Chuck, that hotels were squeezed because nobody was staying in them during the 2020-2021 period, and costs across the board for everything that they offer are up. And for us having events at hotels, that is going to be something we're going to have to be cognizant of as we figure out the cost structure for our events. The other thing is that in my day job, long ago, I was a state budget director, and during the 2000-2001 recession, the state of Iowa basically drained almost $1 billion from its reserve funds to basically be a bridge to balance. And that's what reserve funds are for. And so it's fortunate that we had them. And in some ways, that was part of kind of the conversation around the risk associated with this event, that we still had the opportunity to be able to keep the operation going, even if the results weren't what would meet expectations. So our job now as a board will be, one, obviously to learn from this experience, to take the possibility of these negative events into consideration as we think about other events that we hold and how we can design our cost structure to be able to withstand that, and then to refill our reserves. It hasn't been that long that US Chess has been in this situation where it had significant reserves, and we worked ourselves into a position of filling them. and we'll do that again. I'm confident of that. Are there,
It's, on this, essentially, if we're going to continue to be self-insured, and it doesn't look like there are many other opportunities, we should look at the expense of each event and then risk that event at its lowest participation and be able to withstand that loss. Because we're going into a time when we'll need free cash, and this will mean some austerity. Free cash has to be generated to meet our information technology upgrades. So there are several things and several outcomes of this, but I think that's the real lesson: is don't try to do something larger than U.S. chess, and that's a lesson I've learned from it.
there other questions for Vice President Unruh? John Fernandez.
Not so much a question, but sort of two comments. One, obviously, Chuck and the rest of the board, thanks for, all the work to get us into a financial position where, we can take a hit or two. And so that's obviously a position we'd not been in previously. And the second, I can certainly echo Randy and Chuck, your statements. I'm at one of the 100 events we do a year. Right now, we are seeing doubling and tripling and quadrupling of costs literally year over year for the exact same services. I don't quite know when it's going to stop, but I know it's been a drag on my professional budget that I manage, as well as US chesses. And obviously, given that events, whether they are the US Open or National Scholastics or other national events, that is something that not just US chess, but the entire US chess community is going to feel. And how we mitigate that over the next couple of years will be, I think, one of the challenges we have is we do this stuff very often over the board and in physical locations. So I'm sure there's much more to come there.
One last comment, Mr. President. I'd like to thank our Executive Director, Renee, for taking proactive steps. We have liquidated certain equities and actually are addressing some of the shortfalls. So thank you, Renee.
That goes for all the board. We appreciate your hard work on this. I know there's been a lot of work. Any other before we move on? Okay, we will now go into closed session, and we obviously will return to open session after we complete closed sessions. We have returned into open session. Kevin Pryor joined us shortly after we entered into closed session and participated in all the discussions. We have, I believe, two motions coming out of closed session. Mr. Secretary, would you read the first motion?
Yes, Mr. President, that's correct. We do have two motions. First motion is for awarding the title of Committee of the Year for the past year. The motion reads as follows. The Executive Board moves to recognize the U.S. Chess Safe Play Advisory Group as Committee of the Year for 2023-24 in recognition of the group's work throughout the past U.S. chess fiscal year.
This was a committee that has taken on substantial amount of work. I mean, it's hours and hours of work, and has helped us to further our efforts as it relates to maintaining and sustaining safe play guidelines. So I think this is very warranted. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 8-0. Mr. Secretary, second motion.
Okay. Is Dave Hick? Oh, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I just want to make sure we had 8 members on. Okay, the second motion has to do with a safe play issue. And it has nothing to do with the Committee of the Year. This is a separate safe play issue. Having reviewed the safe play report in the case of Epple versus Walker, the U.S. Chess Executive Board moves to suspend the U.S. Chess membership of Thomas Walker US Chess ID 1707-5091, effective July 10, 2024, for 6 months for violations of Section 3, prohibited conduct, subparagraph B, bullying, and subparagraph D, harassment of the safe play policy. However, in view of the fact that Mr. Walker is actively working with a professional therapist and has already experienced several months of suspension from participation in local chess events, to help manage his behavior, the executive board further moves to set aside the membership suspension for 6 months, or through January 10th, 2025. During the period of probation, should Mr. Walker have another incident where his behavior interrupts a US Chess sanctioned event, then the executive board may remove the probation and suspend Mr. Walker's US Chess membership for at least 6 months, beginning the date the executive board votes to remove the probation.
Heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion passes 8-0. Does that dispose of the motions, Mr. Secretary?
There are no additional motions, Mr. President.
Is there any other discussion from any other board members? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you.